So a summary for what student tracking is essentially placing students into different math courses, different math tracks, namely honors, advanced, regular, remedial, and other levels. And this is problematic because it places some students into different or lower levels of math that are inadequate at developing students' understanding of math, which would then hinder their potential and it'll bring on psychological doubt for one's own mathematical ability. And this is further problematic because sometimes these placements into courses are based on non-academic factors, such as perceived academic ability, race, gender, socioeconomic status, or other expectations that adults place on children. And essentially, students at the top, the top tracks will excel theoretically because they're presented with good teaching, whereas students in bottom tracks have no hope at all because the material they're learning is just inadequate for the mathematical standards. And the article essentially argues for a need to detrack high schools in order to end these inequalities. And the reasoning is based off evidence that demonstrates that detracking high schools is beneficial, especially in the mathematical field. Now, the article does address that there is appropriate room for accelerated tracks, but that is when a student has demonstrated a deep understanding for the grade level standards, in which case then it will be appropriate for that student to excel. But overall, the overall belief is that the heart of mathematics pathways should be seen as engaging routes that lead to success, but it should never be tracks that will lead to failure, which is what a lot of tracking does. Now, we are given an example of a school district that does detrack, and that is the San Francisco School District, where they proposed that students would take the same mathematics up until 10th grade, and then they would choose different paths in 11th grade and beyond, just based off their own standing on math. And this turned out to have good results, with students failing algebra dropped from 40% to 8%, and students taking advanced classes rose by 33%. Again, the idea is that when you track, you send a message to students that their ability is fixed. Like students are affected by labels, and they give up if they think that there's no breaking the label. For example, if you tell a student that they're bad at math, then they'll just accept that and they'll give up and they'll never try in math. However, when you tell a student that they can reach the sky, and you provide opportunities for them to do so, then the idea is that amazing things will happen, which essentially echoes the overall sentiment that detracking is necessary.
We should introduce the teacher tracking. Like math students, math teachers themselves are often tracked. As most experienced teacher, or those who are most effective assigned to upper level mathematics course, and the less experienced teacher assigned to intro level mathematics course. But is this the right thing to do? Today, I want to argue that it is not. The tracking of mathematics teacher should be stopped. Let's see the shortcoming of teaching tracking. A study from 2013 shows that near two-thirds of fourth grade teachers report using ability grouping in mathematics instruction. It fails to recognize the fundamental principle of justice. Students may continue to fall behind in the grade level if they are removed from it, and they are likely to be fully prepared to enter a common shared pathway in high school without additional support. And the students in either course didn't get the chance to learn from the most experienced teacher. What worse, teacher tracking fails to support teachers as continuous learner. Effective teaching requires ongoing professional learning, including participation in professional learning communities. This might be a disadvantage to both students and teachers in low-level course, who could greatly benefit from experienced instruction. So we need to do some teacher detracking. Teachers need to be supported as continual learner of both mathematical content and instructional strategies. One way to doing this is by having teachers teach different level of math, not just sticking to one. This helps teachers learn more about the whole math curriculum. It can also stop new teachers from getting tired and discouraged because they're not always teaching the easy course. Plus, if experienced teachers are also detracting, they can help all students learn better. Last, I wish to introduce the balancing teaching. By distributing teaching assignments more evenly, both new and experienced teacher get exposure to different level of curriculum. This approach can benefit to everyone. New teacher gain valuable experiences, and experienced teachers stay fresh and engaged. And students at all level benefit from a mix of teaching style. We make sure all teachers get to teach different level of math, everyone wins.
So for the implications of tracking, lower track courses often lead to dead ends in terms of math education because a lot of classes really don't prepare students for higher level math classes in college. Uh, there's a bias in like how tracking works because gender, class, race, and language, which aren't academic, are used to place students in track. But this is different for some schools. Some schools, students can pick whichever track they want to be on, and in other schools, it's based on what grade you had in the previous class. So we see that tracking often places marginalized students in lower tracks. Higher tracks teach conceptual understanding, while lower tracks teaches memorization and procedure. And if you think about like a lot of the jobs like engineers, innovators, designers, like they need conceptual understanding to like innovate and uh, knowing like how to calculate stuff is good, but that alone isn't enough. And another thing is experienced teachers are often put in higher track classes while the new and underperforming teachers are placed in lower track classes, so it's not really fair. And overall, the educational outcomes for students that are placed in lower track classes aren't very good. So my suggestion to like fix it, and also suggested by the National Council of Mathematics Teachers, is kind of what they do at Price. So they have a single track for all of their students. So they still have AP classes because like AP Calculus is at the end of it's like another step along the track. It's not like a parallel, uh, like with honors. You take it as a replacement for normal. They teach like conceptual understanding to their students. So when I was there, they were doing the thing where they slice up a circle into like triangles and then combine it into a rectangle to show the area of a circle formula. Area equals pi r squared and how that works. They have like a supplemental math instruction class for students who are struggling. And so they will still take their normal math class with their peers and then they'll have an elective where they get more help. And one of the teachers there I spoke to, he like uh, arranges his seating chart so that there's like one strong performing student at each table so he can help, so they can like help the other students.
In my own experience, I was an honors and an AP student. I enjoyed the more higher level classes and was even a part of the accelerated courses of mathematics in my school. While I still think the accelerated courses offered a new pace of learning that felt more comfortable and fitting to my abilities, I realized that the honors and AP courses didn't really feel that way. Being an honors or AP didn't feel like it entailed anything different from the remedial courses. In fact, any remedial courses I took felt like an unnecessary detour from the material, in a place where teachers were more worried about behavior and worksheets than actual learning. Some would argue that detracking wouldn't just harm students who are ahead, but students who are falling behind and cannot receive the pacing that would better suit them. However, this is not the case. Students' abilities are often reinforced by their placement in courses. Students who are in remedial courses often stay in them, while honor students tend to stay in honor courses. The expectations placed upon students, especially negative ones, usually cause students to only meet those expectations in a self-fulfilling prophecy. an idea we've discussed time and time again in this course. In the end, students leave school with a very different education, one where they took courses to understand the depth of materials and one where they did not, where they took a course to pass it and not really anything else. Oftentimes, marginalized groups are the ones put in these remedial courses as well, and have trouble with mobility and changing to higher level courses because of how they are set up. It's hard to say what should be done then, as even without separated classes, students have different paces of learning. But this still exists in tracked courses. An AP student might be ahead of another AP student, but both are forced on the same track. As this idea of detracking grows, teachers will better be able to incorporate this idea into larger classrooms and be able to help students drive their own learning. An important topic told to us in education studies is that self-regulated learning is one of the most impactful forms of learning. It is more effective than lecturing and has students develop an in-depth understanding of what they are learning. Having a teacher to guide a student through their own learning would allow students to move at their own pace and not be forced on a track. And of course, some courses may be necessary for students who wish to move ahead, such as the accelerated courses, which are still of heavy controversy, but no student should have a better education because they were learning at a somewhat different pace.